Welcome to this fifth session of this lesson on the call to follow. It's a divine call that the Father has given to us, the divine call the Lord has given to us, calling us to follow Him. We've taken time throughout the four sessions, and I encourage you to take time and listen through to define this call, the nature of the call, and the cost of the call. And we're still pushing further as we look at the cost of the call to follow. In session number 4, the last session, we began looking at Matthew chapter number 6, from verse 19 down 21, as we began looking at the call to follow as a divine call to invest your life and all that concerns you in the Lord, and the realization that the Lord owns both you and all that you have. We talked about two treasuries: a call to follow, it's a divine call to invest your life and all that concerns you to the Lord, who owns both you and all you have. We did talk about investing, what it is to invest. To invest is to put into, is to commit with an expectation to receive profit or gain. It is to distribute resources into something offering potential returns. You look at something that can give you returns and you distribute your resources therein. So you put your resources into that which will give you profit, all right? That which will give you returns. In other words, you look for what is profitable. We did say that to invest is also to spend time, to spend energy, to spend effort, so on and so forth, on something that you think is good or useful. Now, that definition right there is very key in our context. Okay? It's very key in our context. The whole idea of spending time, energy, effort, and everything as resources on something that you think is good or useful. Now, if it be that you believe the Lord is profitable, if you believe in Christ, and that you think, believe, and are convinced of the usefulness of Christ to you and in your life, then of necessity you will invest, you will spend your time, your energy, your efforts, your resources, and so on and so forth in Him. In this regard, therefore, the call to follow is first a call to spend time, energy, and effort in God. In God. You see, the call to follow is such a prestigious call, that God cannot take it casually or lightly. It's such a prestigious call that there is a price to pay for the same. And that's something I really wish it can sink in our hearts. The call to follow is a prestigious, very prestigious call. Very prestigious call. And so we have to be willing to pay the price to follow this call to follow. It's a prestigious call because it's a call to follow the King. It's a call to be close to the King, to be with the King, to spend time with the King, to invest your resources in the King, your energies in the King. Now, secondly, the call to follow is a call to distribute or to put or commit your material resources in God's agenda. All right? It is not just a call to follow and to spend your time, your energy, your resources. It's not just a call to invest your life. It is also a call to invest, to distribute, to put in, to commit your material resources in God's agenda. So when God is saying, or the Lord is saying, follow me, He's telling the people, the son, the children, the disciples, He's telling you, He's telling me, follow me, invest your life in me, invest your resources in me. Commit yourself to me and commit your resources to me. So the Lord does not call us to follow Him and leaves our resources aside. He calls you to follow Him, and when you come with all that you have. You come as who you are and all that you have. We did talk about two treasuries, right? The scriptures will lead us to two treasuries. Matthew 6, 19 to 21. There are two treasuries from which we choose and invest in, okay, two treasuries from which we choose and invest in. You can't invest in both at the same time. You invest in one at a time. So it says this in Matthew 6:19 to 21. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Now, a few things I want us to look at this. I do know that we looked at this in the last session, but I want us to pick up a few things here as we interrogate this scripture. You need to observe a few things here. First, observe that all of you have treasures. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth. All of you have treasures. Everyone has treasures. You have something to invest. Okay? Observe, first of all, that you have treasures. You have treasures to invest. We look for reasons not to invest. The context here is not your gift. The context here is not your ability. The context here is not your life. The context here is material resources. You have treasures. Everyone has treasure to invest, both material and immaterial. All right? Do not lay up for yourselves treasure. Secondly, first observe you have treasures. Secondly, observe that you invest the treasure for yourself. Do not lay up for yourselves. It is for yourself that you invest. It's to your own advantage, it's to your own benefit. You invest for yourself. Do not lay up for yourselves, but lay up for yourselves. You see? Verse 19, do not lay up for yourselves. Verse 20, but lay up for yourselves. So you have treasure. You invest for yourself. Thirdly, there are two treasuries. Observe that there are two treasuries. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, but lay for yourselves treasures in heaven. So you have treasure. Okay? You invest the treasure for yourself. There are two treasuries on earth and in heaven, visible and invisible, material and immaterial, temporal and eternal, natural and supernatural, earth and heaven. Number 4, which is the main lesson here, observe that your heart follows your treasure. For where, that's verse 21, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Okay? So that's the fourth thing you have to observe. And there's a main lesson here, that your heart follows your treasure. You see, it is for yourself you are laying the treasure. But why is God telling you to lay the treasure? Where to lay the treasure? God is not forcing you to lay your treasure in heaven. He's giving you wisdom. He's advising you. He's telling you the right thing to do. Right? He's telling you have treasure. There are two treasuries. I advise you to invest in heaven. Why? Because He is after your heart. What God is after is your heart, not your treasure. But He does know that your heart follows your treasure. Okay? And lastly, observe that it is your choice. It's your choice where to invest. You choose where to invest. Okay? First, you have treasure. All right? Secondly, you lay the treasure for yourself, you invest for yourself. Thirdly, there are two treasuries. Fourthly, your heart follows your treasure. And lastly, you choose where to invest. To lay up, you choose where to lay up your treasure. You choose which treasury to invest in. You choose which treasury to invest in. Now, in the context of our lesson, the call to follow, you have not yielded to this call to follow the Master if you have not fully given Him your all. All right? He's saying, follow me. I will know you have followed me when I have your treasure. If I can see where you put your treasure, then I will tell you where your heart is. The master is saying, follow me. If you truly are following me, then I have your treasure. Because if I can have your treasure, I'll have your heart. I'll have your heart. The freedom to give faithfully and generously is a result of a conscious yielding to this divine call to follow. For me, ladies and gentlemen, the debate on giving that goes on all over, even in social media, too much debate about giving financial and material in the kingdom, investing in the kingdom of God. That is secondary. That is secondary. The primary thing is one's relationship with the Lord. Okay? It's one's relationship with the Lord. The call to follow is the primary call. The call to give is not the primary call. No. When the scriptures we read, when he called out, he did not say, give me. He said, follow me. It's a call to follow, not a call to give. All right? Very important. It's a call to follow, not a call to give. Why would he say that? Because he knows that if you follow him, then you hold nothing from him. Nothing from him. And so for him to have you, he comes and begins to teach you and tells you, after I call you to follow me, once you begin following me, put your treasure in me, invest in me. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And he says, I'm after your heart. I'm after your heart. And so really the struggle to give is broken when one fully yields and submits to this divine call to follow. When you find yourself struggling to give, when you find yourself debating whether to give or not to give, when you find yourself, arguing about all, these kind of things, about giving, investing your finances and resources in the kingdom of God, when you find yourself do all these things, don't just think about money. Think about your following. Think about your commitment to the Lord. Think about your relationship with the Lord. That's what the problem is. Problem is not money. Problem is not, where to or whether to. The problem is your relationship with him. Had you fully committed yourself to follow him, you would not be struggling to invest in him. It's never a challenge. The joy of genuine giving is experienced when we have first given ourselves to follow. So you cannot give what you have if you don't give yourself first. No. It begins with you giving yourself. It begins with you giving your life. You will never be faithful and generous in giving if you haven't first given yourself to the Lord. Let's not have these unnecessary arguments and debates. Okay? Let's not have all these things. Let's get things right. A man has to first give himself to follow the Lord. A man has to first give himself over fully to the Lord for him to put his resources in that which is of the Lord. Because listen, what you believe in, you invest in. What you believe in, you invest in. One of the easiest person for me to spend on is my wife. After having married to 26 years this year, working with her, okay, I've given myself to her. So it is never a challenge for me to spend on her whatever. Whatever. In fact, I find it easier to spend more on her than on myself. Why? Because I've first of all given myself to her. What a man believes in, he invests in. What you believe in, you invest in. If truly you believe in him, you will invest in him. If he has your life, he has your resources. But now, he doesn't have your resources because he doesn't have your life. So it's not about an economy that is not working. Dysfunctional economy. It's not about global recession. No. It's not about difficult times. No. It's not about the last days. No. It's about you. You following him. That's where the problem lies. Had you given yourself to follow him as you ought to, beloved, I guarantee you there will be no struggle. There will be no struggle in your giving. Now, You have to first respond to the call to follow the Lord, to be able to invest your material and financial resources in Him. Let me read for us 2 Corinthians chapter 8. 2 Corinthians chapter 8, we're going to read verse 1 through to 5. And it says, Moreover, brethren, we make known to you the grace of God bestowed on the churches of Macedonia, that in a great trial of affliction, the abundance of their joy and their deep poverty abounded in the riches of their liberality or generosity. For I bear witness that according to their ability, yes, and beyond their ability, they were freely willing, imploring us with much urgency that we would receive the gift and the fellowship of the ministering to the saints. Now look at verse 5. And not only as we had hoped, but they first gave themselves to the Lord and then to us by the will of God. You see, Paul is talking about a church here in Macedonia, a people who are talked about their deep poverty. Deep poverty. This church was in deep poverty. I don't think any one of us here qualifies to be called. They are in deep poverty. Church here is in deep poverty. But in deep poverty, they were very generous. How can you give and be considered generous while you are in deep poverty? The answer is in verse 5. They first gave themselves to the Lord. Amen. See, when you give a lot because you have a lot, or when you don't give because you don't have, those two people are the same. The motive of giving is not the Lord. The Bible talks about, Jesus gave the example. All right? In fact, the Bible talks about this woman who went to give when Jesus was there. People came and giving out of their abundance. They gave big offerings out of their abundance. This woman comes and gives something small, the last that she had, just a coin. But Jesus says she did the greatest. She gave the most because she gave her livelihood. That tells you this woman had given herself to the Lord first. And she knew she can trust God with her life. Listen, when you invest your treasures in heaven, you are simply telling the Lord, my life is in your hands. I believe you. I trust you. I place my life in your hands. You're simply saying, I choose to live in the dimension, in the physical dimension, from an eternal dimension, from a spiritual dimension. I choose to live in the natural from the supernatural. I choose to live in the physical from the spiritual. I choose to live in the material from the immaterial. I choose to live in the temporal from the eternal dimension. My sustenance, my upkeep, my provision, my preservation, my protection, my purpose, everything about me is orchestrated from the eternal realm. That's what you're saying. That's why I am transacting with the eternal realm. I use the material to transact with the immaterial. I use the natural to transact with the supernatural. Laying my treasures in heaven. That's following. That's following. Simply saying, Lord, I'm yours. I give out to you. I put my faith in you. I put my trust in you. I put my confidence in you. I believe you. That's the statement you're making. I have given myself to follow you. Where you lead, I will go. You're simply saying, my life is not dictated by the material. My life is not dictated by the natural. My life is dictated by you. You are Lord over my life. You are King over my life. Now, that leads us to the two masters. In between, before you get over to the two masters, after seeing the two treasuries, in between there, verse 22 to 23, we see two eyes. To invest your resources in the Lord, you have to have a good eye. Now, this eye here talks about an attitude, a good attitude. Matthew 6, 22 to 23. What is it saying? 6, 22 to 23. And it's saying, The lamp of the body is the eye. Therefore, the eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Two eyes. You can see there. Good eye in verse 22 and a bad eye in verse 23. A good eye and an evil eye. A healthy and an unhealthy eye. Talking of a healthy or unhealthy attitude towards money. Remember, the context is money, treasure. Okay? To have the right attitude, that's a good eye, you have to have the Lord established as the master in your life. So when you give yourself to follow him, that's your eye becomes good. Your view of treasure, your view of wealth, your view of riches, your view of resources becomes right. Okay? And when your attitude towards resources and material wealth is good, when you have a good eye, trust me, God will commit more to you. When your attitude is right. Because you see, your eye determines who becomes the master. Your attitude. You have a good eye, that is an attitude that he is Lord, Jesus is Lord. The money is not. An evil eye is a bad attitude towards money, where you think money is the Lord. Okay? So you have to have the right attitude. You have to have a good eye, a healthy attitude towards money, towards resources, towards wealth. This is very key in following. Because if you have an evil eye, you cannot follow effectively. If you have an evil eye, you will be like Judas. You will look at the Lord and begin to think how you can benefit from the Lord. Okay? You can easily betray. As long as you have monetary gain, you can betray. My friend, it's possible for you to be born again, but you are using the Lord to your advantage. How many people are there today? We have too many Judases in the name of preachers going on today. Too many of them. Okay? It leads us to two masters. Leads us to two masters. Matthew 6:24. We just are following this as we follow. We are following. We are following. There are two masters and you choose who to serve. Look at verse 24. All right? After talking of two treasuries, then talking about the two eyes, Jesus, skillfully comes now the two masters. He said, no one can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. The two masters are God and mammon, or money. Okay? One is in charge of the earthly treasury. Remember the context? One is in charge of the earthly treasury, while the other is in charge of the heavenly treasury. All right? Do not lay up for yourselves treasure on earth. Right? That one, the one in charge is mammon. But lay for yourselves treasure in heaven. The one in charge is God. Two treasuries. Two eyes. Two masters. Now, one treasury is the earth. It has an evil eye, and the master is mammon. The other treasury is heaven. It has a good eye, and the master is God. So you choose. Okay? You choose. No one can serve two masters. You serve one at a time. You choose which master to submit to, and which master to invest in, and which master to serve. That's there. It is your choice. You choose. Which master do you submit to? Which master do you invest in? And which master do you follow? That's the price you have to pay. The choice you have to make in the call to follow. The one you choose, okay? When you choose one, you by default dishonor and despise the other. That's outright. No middle ground. The one you choose, you despise or dishonor the other. So if you choose mammon, you dishonor and despise God. If you choose God, you dishonor and despise mammon. The one you invest in, that's where your heart is. That's the one you follow. That's where we are coming to. It comes down to following. The one in whom you invest is the one you follow, is the one you serve. The word mammon is a Greek word mammonas, meaning confidence. Okay? Meaning confidence. It means wealth. What is it saying here? It's simply telling us that you have to choose where to put your confidence. Your confidence is either in God or in money. Word mammon also means wealth. Word mammon means avarice. That avarice simply is materialism or meanness, greediness. Okay? So you cannot serve God and greed at the same time. You cannot serve God and wealth at the same time. You cannot put your confidence in God and in money at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, there are only two sources of confidence in life. It's God or money. Telling you the truth. That's why you find a man who is educated with his PhD, but when he's broke, he has no confidence. And you find a man who is not educated, illiterate, but when he has money, the man is confident. Works as if he owns the community because he has money. His confidence is in the money. Confidence. It's not your degree that gives you confidence. It's not your position, my friend. It's not your title. No. It's not the numbers behind you. It's money. But you want to find another man, he's not educated. He has no money. He has no degrees. But he has such an intimate knowledge of God, such a confidence in God, such a deep relationship with God. The man walks as if he owns both heaven and earth. That's how Peter walked, John and James, until the Pharisees were shocked. The Bible says they realized they had been with Jesus. They perceived they were uneducated, but they couldn't understand the confidence in this man. Because there are only two sources of confidence in life, money or God. You choose your source of confidence. Secondly, your motivation in life is either God or money. Only two motivations in life, God or money, God or mammon. You either live your life to glorify God or you live your life to make money. That you wake up in the morning, the first thing in the mind, what drives you, what inspires you, what motivates you is either to make money or to glorify God. When I wake up this morning, I want to live my life in such a way that God will be glorified. In my thoughts, in my speech, in my conduct, in my actions, I'm living today to glorify God. Meanwhile, another one wakes up and says, today as I wake up, I have to pursue this and that and that. I have to lay hold of this money. I cannot live this way. Whatever it takes, I will make this money. I submit to you today that majority of the populace globally live to make money. The motivation is money. Why did you study? Why are you studying? Why have you gone back to school? What are you up to? How many go to school to acquire knowledge that they can use that knowledge to glorify God? How many are using their knowledge to glorify God? How many wake up in the morning and go to work and consider that the work is a God-given platform for them to glorify Him, to reveal Him, to show forth His praises, for them to manifest the principles and the values of the kingdom of God? How many have this mindset? Very few, if any. Very few sons of God have that. But what do? We wake up and go. What are we after? Money. The call to follow, ladies and gentlemen, is a call to live your life for God's own praise and glory. It's a call to serve Him and not yourself. To follow the Lord wholeheartedly, you have to value Him and elevate Him above money and material riches in your mind. You have to value Him. You have to elevate Him in your mind above money. He has to become the motive for which you live. So you ask me, how can I know whether my motive is money? Whether I live for money or for God? It's very easy. Romans 8:5. For you to easily know where your heart is and who of the two masters you serve, it's simple. Follow your resources and the trail of your thoughts. The thoughts that consume you. Romans 8 verse 5. says, for those who live according to the flesh, earthly life, set their minds on the things of the flesh. Their minds are preoccupied about things that are earthly. But those who live according to the Spirit, they set their minds on things of the Spirit. But those who live according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. Colossians 3, 1 and 2. Colossians 3, 1 and 2. If then you were raised with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ is, sitting at the right hand of God. It says, set your mind on things above, not on things on the earth. Be preoccupied with what is heavenly, what is divine. Think about heavenly wisdom, heavenly principles. Yeah. Things like love, honesty, integrity, gentleness, excellence, dignity, meekness, truth, righteousness. These are heavenly things. Those are things you think about and then execute on earth. Yeah? That's how you live a kingdom life on earth. By principles of the kingdom. Set your mind on things above, not on things on the earth. Isaiah 26 verse number 3. Isaiah 26 verse number 3. It says, you will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you. Mind is stayed on you. Because he trusts in you. See? You have to put your mind on God. You have to bring God at the very front of your mind. That as you make decisions, you think, what glorifies God? What honors God? How will this glorify God? Yeah? Will this honor or dishonor God? Will this praise or bring shame to the name of the Lord? Whose mind is stayed, established, sustained on you. Hebrews 12:2. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat at the right hand of the throne of God. That word looking is considering, thinking about, considering Jesus, thinking about him. Beloved, keep your mind and eyes fixated on the Lord Jesus Christ. The call to follow is a call to stay your mind on the Lord. Hallelujah. The call to follow is a call to stay your mind on the Lord. It's a call to be conscious of the person and the presence of the Lord with you. Lastly, as we come to close today's session, in regard to investing your life, the call to follow is a call to make the Lord your priority. The call to follow is a call to make the Lord your priority in every aspect of your life. It says in Matthew 6, 33 to 31. We're going to look at the context. We're going to look at the context of these Matthew 6, 33. It says 6, 31 to 33. It says, therefore do not worry, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For after all these things the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. I wish we can be that persuaded that Father knows we need all these things. Your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. But seek first, it says. That's 33. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Remember, the context here is money. Context is riches. It's treasury. All right? It's treasury. So he goes on to address the things that the treasury, affords us. The things that are physical, the things that are natural, the things that are material. He goes on to address the things that that are natural. What we eat, what we drink, what we wear. So don't worry about these things. Make the Lord your priority. The word first there is proton. Firstly. Okay, firstly, in time, in place, in importance. Make the Lord your priority. Let him be the most important pursuit. Yeah? But seek before. The word proton is before. It is at the beginning. It is first of all. It is chiefly. But seek, but pursue. Firstly, chiefly, at the beginning, seek the kingdom of God. To follow the Lord wholeheartedly, you have to be willing to make Him and His kingdom a priority in your life. He has to be first. Please take note. If He is not first, He is not Lord. When you give yourself to follow Him, then He becomes first. Of these matters, we shall discuss more. The Lord bless you.